the starting point is pretty much the graph that I showed you at the beginning, meaning the fact that you do observe that in the same industry, there are some firms that are much more successful in becoming a multinational company compared to others. So you have a lot of within industry heterogeneity in the extent to which firm can or cannot become multinational company. So in most existing theories of the firm, the firm is seen, and this in particular is true when you consider both transaction cost and a classical theory, the firm is seen basically a passive reactor to demand condition, to cost, and to government intervention. So if you remember when we were talking about transaction cost, for instance, the extent to which a firm decides to internalize or not depends on market imperfection. Market imperfection depends on several things, including government intervention. But again, if this is true, all the firms in the same sector should face the same market imperfection, so they should all face the same incentives to become or not become multinational company. So you should observe again a very homogeneous distribution of multinational companies within sectors. But this is not the case. Okay. So you want to explain this heterogeneity, and what you need to do is to consider a more proactive way to study the way in which things are done within company. And according to Cantwell, this basically comes from the evolutionary approach, and in particular, as we will see, the role of knowledge within the firm. Okay, so the starting point of Cantwell theory is what? Is basically the idea that rather than simply minimization of transaction cost, the key source of competitive advantage for a company is innovation and technology. Okay, so it's thanks to innovation, thanks to the fact the firm can come up frequently with new product, but also with new ways of organizing business. Remember then, it's a pity that you don't that there is not a there is a course in economics of innovation in your bachelor, but it's not in your curriculum because it's in the digital economy sector. Curriculum. But when you talk about innovation, oftentimes students tend to think about innovation all in terms of introduction of new products. Okay, so Apple is very innovative because she can introduce a new product every 2 or 5 years. So once was the iPad, then was the iPhone, and things like that. However, innovation is not only related to product, but you have process innovation, meaning innovation in the way in which you process goods, as well as organizational innovation, meaning innovation in the way in which you organize your activity. Okay, so according to Cantwell, innovation and also technology, therefore, is the most important factors in defining the capability of the firm to stay ahead of competitors. So it's the main factors defining the capability of the firm to have competitive advantages. And he defined this as an innovation ownership advantage. So here the link with ownership is important because it's the link with sort of like Dunning's approach where we have ownership advantage. But he clarified a little bit what he means by ownership advantages, linking the idea of ownership advantage, meaning advantages that are specific to a company. Remember that this is the definition that we have in Dunning's approach, and in particular attaching to this idea of firm-specific advantage that are in particular related to the capability of the firm to be innovative. Not only in terms of products, but also in terms of organization. Okay, so the key point is that such innovation ownership advantage are not static and depends on one single thing that is the same over time, but they change following what? Well, following the strategic behavior of the company. Okay, so in a sense, innovation ownership advantage, they don't fall from the sky, in the sense they are not exogenous with respect to firms' decisions, but are actually a result of how a firm decides to organize its production activities. In particular, it depends on how the firm design her its strategic behavior. Okay, so in a sense, these innovation ownership advantage are endogenous with respect to the activities taking place inside the firm. And here again, it's important the link with the resource and evolutionary approach, because, for instance, here the link is very clear with the idea of searching. Okay, so these innovation ownership advantage are not given, but they change over time depending on the decisions the firm make. Again, if you think about the example of the COVID lockdown, one potential innovation ownership advantage is the capability of the firm to innovate their production activities, introducing smart working. Okay, so this is the fact that the firm is capable of obtaining this innovation ownership advantage that can create a competitive advantage during the next year or even for a longer time period, depends on the capability of the firm to adopt a strategic behavior that lead the firms to adopt this new technology and to adapt the organization of the activities introducing smart working. Okay, so in this sense, the idea of developing an innovation ownership advantage does not come from the sky, in the sense that the decision to adopt smart working is random, but depends on the capability of the firm to perceiving the opportunity of using these technologies, and also on the capability to adapt the organization of the activities on the basis of these new technologies. Okay, so in this sense, again, it is an endogenous component of firm behavior. Now, going back to the idea of multinational company, his point is that in this framework, so if this is clear, if what I said is clear, the decision to become a multinational company can be linked to this, because according to Cantwell, it can help firm to develop ownership advantages in innovation. In particular, the idea is that by operating in many countries, so being active as a productor, as a productive unit in many countries, firm can do what? Well, they can acquire knowledge from different localities and use it to improve innovation activities. Okay, so again, in this approach, what really matters to explain the fact that the company becoming multinational firm, that the firm becoming a multinational company, is the fact that the decision to become a multinational company is not related really to cost or to other factors like the product, the phases of the product life cycle in which you are and things like that. But it is due to the fact that firm, if want to be competitive, they need to establish innovation ownership advantage. One important component of this innovation ownership advantage is the knowledge that the firm can have access to, and by operating in different countries at the same time, firm can access knowledge that is more heterogeneous, more variegated, and this helps the firm to create and to consolidate his innovation ownership advantage. Okay? In particular, this access to the knowledge depends on two types of networks, according to Cantwell. One is the external network. So one way that firms have to access new knowledge about how products are done, how organization of activities can be designed, about what are the, for instance, also the preference of the consumers and things like that. One network that firm can use to access this knowledge is what he calls the external network, which is the network of supplier, consumers, and partners. These are all agents that are external with respect to the firm and that operates in the market. Okay. Of course, if you operate in different countries, you have an external network in which you will have many different suppliers, some Chinese, some will be maybe operating in the United States, some will operate in Europe and things like that. So very differentiated set of suppliers. You will have different consumers because you will be able to sell your product to Chinese consumers, to European consumers, to US consumers, and also several different partners. What are partners? Well, can be consultant firms that you need to interact with to have some suggestions and things like that. Again, the more variegated is the set of partners, the more wide and large is your external network. The internal network instead is what? Well, the internal network is it consists of the your unit of production that are spread in different countries. So are all the affiliated companies that you own thanks to your foreign direct investments and that are active in several different countries. So the internal network consists of the production units that are part of your company as a multinational company. Okay, so if you are a multinational company, these production units are spread across different countries. Okay, so again, it implies that your internal network is much more large and variegated and heterogeneous compared to the internal network of a non-multinational company. Okay, now the external network, the one that includes the agents that are interact with you via the market, enable a multinational company to acquire knowledge from the external environment related to the consumer characteristics, to the suppliers' characteristics, and so on and so forth. Such knowledge is incorporated and transferred within and across units via the internal network. Okay, so on one hand, the external network allows multinational company to access a much broader set of knowledge that comes from the external environment compared to non-multinational company. And also, this knowledge that you acquire from the external network spread to all your production units via your internal network. Okay? And once again, for multinational company, the advantage that you can obtain thanks to this spread of external knowledge via your internal network is larger than a multinational company because your internal network is much more, if you want, again, heterogeneous and large and variegated with respect to the internal network of non-multinational companies. Okay, so this makes multinational company in the best position to actually accumulate knowledge across countries and through time, and to spread this knowledge across a wider set of internal production units, which implies multinational companies are in a better position to develop and to adjust and to improve their ownership innovation advantages. Okay,